Hello, my name is Jamie, and this is another Supplier T News video. For today's topic, we will be discussing the small business news for April 5th, 2021, focusing on the Secretary of Treasury, Janet Yellen, and her speech that she gave outlining the economic policy for the Biden administration. Now, before we go ahead and get started, as always, if you like the content we provide, make sure you subscribe to the video, subscribe to the channel. It's free. It takes a second or two to just click on the subscribe button, and from there, you can get an update anytime we launch a new video or post a new video for your interest. In addition to that, always leave a like if you like the content as well, comment, and also share with other people you think may be interested in this information. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Now, this is going to be, in terms of the summary, a little bit shorter than I typically do. This video may be longer than normal, but for this, we actually only have one page where we're going to be discussing this. Janet Yellen once again gave a speech where she walked through the economic policy of the Biden administration and what their key goals will be. It was about, overall, I think it's about a 25 to 30-minute speech, and then she answers questions afterwards. But the main piece here is kind of what the key takeaways were. So she did outline them in terms of the three main focuses that America will be, looking to push forward in terms of their agenda under the Biden administration over the next couple of years. So I'll just go ahead and get into the three, and then we'll touch upon each one. So the first point is that they will be looking to create a stable and growing. So number one is creating a stable and growing economy that benefits the U.S. economy. Right. The second point is the economic policy will be looking to fight poverty and promote a more inclusive economy that aligns more with our values, our being United States of America. And the last key point that they're going to be looking at is climate change. So let's start off at the top. The first key point. Creating a stable and growing economy that benefits the U.S. economy. So a couple arguments that are being made here. The main piece is that if America grows, our neighbors must grow too, because it benefits everyone around us as we're looking to grow. The key stat that she gave is that in 1990, 40% of U.S. exports went to emerging economies. By 2020, that was 60%. So once again, that argument is, as these economies become stable, middle to lower economy type of countries, as they become more and more stable, they're more likely to purchase American goods as their wealth grows. I put at the very top here that this is the Biden administration's Marshall Plan, and just looking at typically the first two key pieces, that is just, line by line what the Marshall Plan was designed to do, right? If you're not familiar with the Marshall Plan, basically after World War II, obviously the countries, because they had just fought a war in Western Europe, were devastated, right? So they needed money in an effort to rebuild, facilities, regular buildings, houses, get their economy going back up to that. And the Marshall Plan, was from America that essentially loaned these funds out and helped to rebuild Europe so that they could, again, create their wealth and get back to where they were before, the devastation of World War II in terms of the expenses that they were hit with. Looks as if, again, the first piece, that is essentially what the Biden administration is going for here. We invest in these economies, we help build them up, and in return, since we help build them up, and we're, the people financing essentially everything that they're doing, it will make sense for them to kind of reach back out to us and purchase our products, have a strong partnership with us, so that way, we're essentially building as they build their wealth, we're also making money because they're purchasing our products, because we're just so closely aligned with each other. So that is the argument when it comes to that. The second piece, and this is more so, again, I try to cater this towards small businesses, so this is something that I'm going to try to do as well. And number two is America is looking to fight poverty and promote a more inclusive economy that aligns more with our values, right? So the couple arguments here, unstable economies are a security risk to America. What they're going to be looking to do is obviously making these countries more secure, Obviously, it's decreasing the risk. In addition, they're going to be looking to address the wealth gap. So there's a couple of ways that they're trying to address the wealth gap here. The first piece is that they want to create a global minimum tax on corporations. That is probably the biggest takeaway from this piece. I've seen it everywhere, just that global minimum tax on corporations. This will be discussed in the G20. So what the U.S. is trying to do is convince all the G20 represented countries to agree to a minimum tax on all corporations. It's an interesting push. I'm not sure how that's going to go. The reason being is because, countries in some ways, countries are also like companies in the sense that everybody has a competitive advantage, and they understand that in order to grow, right? So for some countries, their competitive advantage may be a low tax rate or a no tax rate. For another country, their competitive advantage may be a strong dollar, right, like the U.S. So every country kind of has their own competitive advantage. Obviously, with the G20, these are very strong countries, so I can understand that a minimum tax they may be more receptive of that. But even still, countries are like companies, and while we may be partners in a sense, countries still will do what's best for themselves. And because America has such a strong currency, regardless of what you think, I mean, on a national level, it's still strong. It may be a benefit for them to undercut the United States in terms of a corporate tax rate. So convincing these countries to agree to that may be undercutting them, in their competitive advantage. So I'm not sure how that's going to go. But again, that's the most controversial piece. But again, that's what America is looking to push. Next up, it'll also be interesting, like if everybody agrees to this minimum tax, and then America just puts it at whatever that tax rate is. Currently, our corporate tax rate is 21%, which dropped from 35% thanks to the Trump administration. The Biden administration is trying to raise that to 28%. So that kind of gives you some of the numbers in terms of where we're at today. I'm curious, what this minimum tax rate would be, and just who would agree to it and how that would work. But interesting, not sure how far that will get, but very interesting. Then next up, U.S. working with IMF to provide $650 billion in currency aid to countries hit by the pandemic. Once again, I immediately go to the Marshall Plan. People who are devastated hit, they need financing. America's trying to step in and be that financer so that this will pay off in 20, 30 years. Which is, that essentially what happened with the Marshall Plan is probably the greatest thing that happened to America in terms of building our own coffers, if you will, or revenue or economy off of the backs of European countries that needed the financing. So this is just another example of this, and it's a proven method if you do it right. So this is essentially what they're doing. Now within the part two, there was a talk when it comes to just the global connectivity of all countries. So it talks about, again, corporate tax rate to the bottom. So it's a race to the bottom, global health risks and pandemic response. So unlike the Trump administration, look, I'm not trying to get political. Whichever one you favor, that's up to you. That's fine. But, as a small business, we have to understand what the government is trying to do and how we can, potentially benefit from it. But what the Trump administration was looking to do is a de-emphasis on globalization. So as you know, the whole America first, this is what America's doing. Don't know what everybody else is doing, but this is what America's doing, and then that's it. It appears as if the Biden administration is going to be a lot more open to a global connectivity. They're trying to understand how to work with other countries. While they said, they're still going to keep the America first ideology, they're not going to. It's America first, not America alone. It's the tagline that they were using. But it's pretty interesting because, it was also stated that the Biden administration, has kept the tariffs from the Trump administration. So it appears as if there's certain aspects of the Trump administration and their ideology they're keeping while trying to become more of a global leader than it was positioned, under the Trump administration. All right, the last piece that we're going to talk about, my font's a little off, so I apologize for that. But last thing we're going to talk about is climate change. So a couple pieces. This was the third piece that they're going to be looking at in terms of the economic policy. They will be rejoining the Paris Agreement, which was left by Trump. And they will also, America will also be working with the G20. Apparently, Janet Yellen has created a sustainable finance working group for the other G20 participants in an effort to get on the same page when it comes to climate change and different policies around that. The last piece that they are using, which is very interesting within the climate change piece, was infrastructure. So, and again, I've reported to this in my last video, which definitely you guys should check out, about the Biden 2.3 trillion infrastructure plan. But while it was the infrastructure plan, there was a lot of pieces to that plan that weren't really around infrastructure, and we're seeing it again here, where the infrastructure is now being placed under the climate change field, if you will. I'm surprised infrastructure wasn't mentioned in the fight for poverty. It wasn't mentioned in a stable and growing economy. It was mentioned under climate change. So that should let you know what they're trying to do when it comes to infrastructure, which means, again, the video I pushed was really big for small businesses, but it depends on whatever you're going to offer the government. It appears as if you must make sure that it has some type of climate change, piece to it. So make sure that you're making that argument, because the government is making it very clear in terms of what they're going for. So make sure that you position yourself accordingly. Environment friendly, sustainability. There was a lot of talk about diversity and culture. So just make sure that you're positioning yourself to take advantage of that, because again, this is their economic policy. It's becoming very clear that they are positioning the infrastructure as a way to solve climate change. So make sure you're aware of that as you're going for, as you're networking and looking to win business with the government. Okay, so that's pretty much it for me. I just wanted to kind of have that takeaway, summarize it for you. It was a long video, so I can understand how you may not want to look through that, but nonetheless, it is important, and it's a really good indicator of how America is looking to position themselves on a global stage. It's definitely things that we need to know, and hopefully, I made it very simple for you to understand. All right. So with that being said, as always, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video if you liked it, leave a comment, and share with other people you think may want to know more about this. All right. Thank you so much for your time, and as always, have a great day.